Imagine yourself within the lush greenery of a Zambian woodland. The air, thick with humidity, heavy as green velvet. Every breath tastes of wet earth and leaves. Soft bird calls weave through the silence. Here, in small social communities, lives a group of chimpanzees. They climb ancient mahogany trees, swing low vines, forage among tangled roots. You observe them closely. Mothers grooming infants, young ones chasing each other through tall grass. You feel the entire forest as part of their daily rhythm. Chimp life is not easy, but it is deliberate. Each day begins with foraging. Fruits, nuts, leaves, termites. Their hands move with careful skill, the smell of sweet fruit on their fingers. With every bite, they engage in subtle communication. Peeps, hoots, glances. They rest midday in shaded clearings. Limbs draped across thick roots. Bellies, full eyes, half closed. Perhaps a soft rumble of play calls shifts through the group, blending into woodland hush. At dusk, they gather at nesting sites, bending leafy branches into hammocks. Their movement is slow, careful, and rhythmic. They press leaves, vines, and twigs into layered beds. It is a tactile, earthy craft. Above, cicadas chirp like distant rainfall. The forest floor glows with fireflies. A hush descends on the group. Life here is both struggle and cohesion. The constant search for food, water, safety, balanced with community rituals of grooming, play, rest, and then, one day something subtle changed. One chimp begins to tuck a blade of grass behind its ear. No survival purpose, no obvious benefit. It simply wore it. Others watched, and soon the style spread. But that is for the next chapter. Now imagine you are still nestled among the undergrowth, hidden, quiet, watching, listening. The air carries the scent of crushed leaves and ripened fruit. A few meters away, a young chimpanzee pauses beside a termite mound. Then, with a deliberate motion, it plucks a blade of grass long green, still wet with dew, and tucks it gently behind its ear. You might think nothing of it. Perhaps it's an accident, but then the same chimp repeats this gesture again the next day. And a few days later, another does the same. Then another. And slowly, quietly, without a word, a trend is born. It doesn't serve a practical purpose. This grass isn't used to gather food. It isn't used to groom or clean. It doesn't deter insects or signal danger. It's adornment, decoration, or perhaps expression. Scientists observing this behavior began to notice patterns. The trend wasn't random. It passed between individuals who spent time together. It spread along social lines, friends, family, and even across community boundaries. And fascinatingly, it wasn't uniform. In one chimp group, the grass was worn behind the left ear. In another, it was tucked at the hip. Some even inserted it into the fur on their arms or backs. Not a global instinct, but a local fashion. A cultural moment. This was no isolated fluke. It followed the path of social learning, like a whisper passed from one mind to another. The way a child copies a parent, or how a friend inspires another to wear their hair a certain way. The chimpanzees weren't just surviving. They were imitating, experimenting, copying, perhaps even inventing. Researchers believe this behavior mirrors something humans have done for millennia. It suggests a kind of proto-fashion, a symbolic act not driven by instinct alone. An early sign of identity, or belonging. A shared, unspoken statement. This is who we are. Even more remarkable, the trend eventually faded, like many trends before it. It came and went, but it left a trail of curiosity, a moment in time where animals we thought we knew revealed a deeper complexity. A reminder that perhaps we are not so alone in our desire to shape the world around us, to place meaning in small things, to be seen. And now, let us take a step back from the moment itself, from the chimp with the blade of grass behind its ear, and ask, what does it mean? Not just what they did, but why they might have done it. In human history, culture is often defined by art, language, fashion, tools. But in recent decades, scientists have begun to ask, do animals have cultures of their own? And if so, how do we listen for them? Chimpanzees, among our closest relatives, offer intriguing clues. They crack nuts with stones, use sticks to extract food, they share food, form alliances, show empathy. But these behaviors vary between regions. One group may fish for termites, another might not. Some groups use moss as a sponge, others don't. These are not genetic differences. They're learned behaviors, passed down, mimicked, adapted. And in rare moments, behaviors emerge that serve no clear survival purpose, like grass accessories. This is the gray space, where instinct blurs into expression. Why might a chimp wear grass behind its ear? It may be imitation, it may be play, or it might be something more. A desire to be noticed, to feel included, or simply to feel different. It is easy to overlook these moments, to dismiss them as random, but scientists have begun to argue that such acts may signal the birth of non-human symbolic behavior. Not words, but statements. not tools, but identity. In one study, chimpanzees were seen engaging in rhythmic movements near trees. They danced, not for mating, not for food. They danced alone or together as rain began to fall. Some researchers wondered, could this be ritual? Could it be art we may never fully understand, and perhaps we shouldn't rush to, because the mystery itself, the not knowing, is what invites us to wonder, to soften our grip on the idea that only humans hold culture, and to listen more closely to the quiet expressions of life around us. In the flick of a leaf, the curl of a vine, the hush of shared silence among a troop, there may lie stories still untold. Now, let us drift further back, far before glossy fabrics and mirror dressing rooms, back to a time when the very first humans were not so different from the chimpanzees we've just watched. Imagine a quiet clearing near a fire. The sky above is vast and endless, pricked with early stars. The scent of smoke clings softly to hair and hide, and around the fire, figures move slowly, wrapped in animal skins and silence. There is no spoken language as we know it, no recorded history, and yet, one woman bends to tie a string around her wrist. On the string are tiny shells, worn smooth by water, strung together not for utility, but for beauty. The first fashion. It is small, simple, but intentional, and soon, others do the same. One paints lines on a face with crushed ochre. Another fastens a feather into braided hair. Not for warmth, not for protection, but for something else. To be seen, to belong, to express. These earliest expressions of human fashion were not rooted in vanity, but in identity. Adornment said, I am part of this group, or I am different. It could signal age, status, fertility, mourning, or joy. And just like the chimpanzees, these behaviors were passed from hand to hand, generation to generation, in caves across Europe, in deserts, in Africa, in coastal settlements of the ancient Pacific. Archaeologists have found beads, pierced stones, hand-painted clothing, each whispering softly through time, taste, intention. It was born in the dust, among firelight and footprints, with grass, bone, bark, and thread. It grew into ritual, into rank, into storytelling. The headdress of a pharaoh, the tattoos of a Polynesian sailor, the embroidered robes of a Chinese emperor, all trace their lineage back to that first string of shells, and perhaps even further, to the chimp with a blade of grass behind its ear. And so, we begin to see how the line between human and animal expression is not a line at all, but a slow, shaded blend, a shared need to mark the self, to be more than the body, to belong. Even today, in your own world, the choice of a color, a hairstyle may echo instincts older than memory, a silent signal to the world. This is who I am. And now, as our journey through the forest, across millennia, comes to a close, let your thoughts drift once more to stillness, from the quiet grace of a chimp in the underbrush, to the firelit faces of early humans stringing shells. You have walked a path of curiosity, of subtlety, of gentle meaning. What we wear, whether leaf or linen, may seem trivial, but it carries the oldest language. Tonight as you rest, know that expression lives in the quietest acts. Not shouted, not bold, but whispered like wind through trees. Thank you for joining me, for listening, and for remembering that even in the smallest gestures, history lingers. Good night.